Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's the big story making international headlines this hour. Norway, Spain and Ireland have all recognized Palestine as a state. In fact, the Norwegian Prime Minister made the announcement earlier saying that the move would help keep alive the only alternative to conflict in the Middle East. Two states, Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace and security. He also said that he'll strengthen moderate Palestinian forces who've been on the ground, or who've been losing ground, I should say. European Union members Slovenia and Malta have also indicated in recent weeks that they plan to make the recognition, arguing a two-state solution is essential for lasting peace in the region. Let's make sense of all of this for you. Bring in our international news editor, Sophie Mokoena, who joins us now in our studios. Yet another significant move, some people might say, but let's begin perhaps with much needed context. Earlier this month, a number of states in the UN also voted in favor of Palestine being, included as a permanent member of the United Nations. And I suppose all of this is pushing in the same direction.
Yes, indeed. You are correct that we saw that vote in the General Assembly where more than 100 countries supported the view that Palestine should be recognized as a state and also enjoy privileges within the United Nations. And that matter was then referred to the Security Council for also putting a stamp of approval. But we know that it's going to be a difficult one because we expect the US to veto that resolution as they did before it was put before the General Assembly. Now this announcement this morning that Norway, Ireland and Spain making an announcement a few minutes ago that they will recognize Palestine. It speaks to a wave of support for Palestinians. And this is something that the Norwegians have been involved in for quite a long time. The Oslo Accord spoke to that. It was part of the resolution of this Oslo Accord, but it was not properly implemented because there's always resistance from Israel's side. Perhaps let's take a listen at what Mona Juul, who is the former ambassador of Norway at the United Nations, said to the SABC when he was in the country last month, now working in the office, the highest office in that land. Let's take a listen.
Certainly think so, but I think what we have learned from the Oslo process is that one need to tackle all the issues at once. We need to find a way to establish a Palestinian state that is being recognized not only by Israel but by the whole international community. And with that means that we have to find a way to deal with the borders of that state, to deal with the issue of the refugees, to deal with the issues of Jerusalem. And there have been so many attempts throughout, after the Oslo Agreement, to try to find a way. So there are many drafts of an agreement.
All right, so that's Mona Juul, a Norwegian diplomat speaking to the SABC earlier on. Now, what many people will say is that there's no love lost between Norway and Israel. I mean, their relationship has been interesting, to say the very least. And I suppose it comes as no surprise then that Israel has now recalled their ambassador to the two European countries, Norway and Ireland.
Yes, indeed. This is a retaliation. They say it's a consultation, but you know that this speaks to the frosty relations. It was expected. I mean, you look at how Benjamin Netanyahu has, projected himself and behaved, an entire cabinet. I mean, only yesterday he was on a rant, even threatening the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. So it was expected that the Foreign Affairs Minister of Israel will do this, and therefore it speaks to the rupture, and I think they are underestimating the wave of support for the Palestinians, not for Hamas. And therefore, I think Israel will have to really look at this issue. I expect America to support Israel. But again, America, ahead of elections, Biden must be very careful. You saw what happened yesterday to Antony Blinken when he was presenting a statement in the committee in Washington, and the protest inside that hearing, but also had questions directed at him.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I suppose what's also important for us to try place what this means for South Africa, who, of course, have been very vocal around what they reckon the solution is moving forward. This concept of a two-state solution is not a new proposition, right? And South Africa, you know, even different sectors of our societies have suggested that this is, in fact, the way to go, including the DA and the ACDP, if memory serves.
Well, all parties in South Africa are supporting a two-state solution, but you have the left and the, you know, the ANC, the left parties and the ANC are even firm to say it must happen now, and they go as far as really exposing Israel. But the others are also supporting, much as they are talking about two-state solution, they are supporting Israel. And therefore, it is not a uniform stand in terms of political parties in South Africa. But the issue of a two-state solution has been the policy of the governing party, the policy of the republic. It dates back to Nelson Mandela, the first democratically elected president, then followed by his successor, President Thabo Mbeki, and of course, Kgalema Motlanthe, interim short stint, and also President Jacob Zuma, and now President Ramaphosa. So that has been the position in terms of South Africa's foreign policy. You know, one thing about South Africa, in terms of the foreign policy, the left parties, the government, the governing party are always in tune. You won't have a problem there. So it's easy in terms of the foreign policy, particularly in relation to Palestine, to Cuba, to Russia, to China. But now, the issue here of this two-state solution, Israel has rejected this even before. Not only now by recalling the ambassadors. Benjamin Netanyahu has been clear that the two-state solution right now, or in the future, it's not an option. You had the Minister of Defense saying the same thing, very radical. And it's no surprise that today the chief or prosecutor of the International Criminal Court is requesting the court to support the issuing of the warrant of arrest for both of them. And it's a big international story.
Absolutely. And what a week it's been. And it's only Wednesday that all these movements are taking place. Something tells me, of course, we'll be speaking about this for many months, weeks, maybe even years to come.
Yes, on the backdrop of what's happening in Iran as well. So that Middle East question, the Middle East in general, will be in the news for quite a long time.
Without a doubt. Sophie Mokoena, thanks for popping by, helping us make sense of these major developments taking place in the Middle East. Sophie Mokoena, of course, our international news editor here at SABC News.